Imagine, if you will, a very young, nervous Steven Spielberg sitting in the waiting room of a studio office. In a few moments, he's going to be invited through into the inner sanctum to meet John Ford. Ford is going to put to the young Spielberg a question which a lot of image makers don't know the answer to. But it's one that can radically alter the feeling of your images. How's it? As visual storytellers, we have at our disposal a number of elements that we can move around the frame to create radically different feelings within the people who are looking at our images. And that conversation between Spielberg and Ford highlights one of the core ideas about creating images that move people.
And he sat me down and he just said, so they tell me you want to be a picture maker. And he said, what do you know? He said, what do you know about art? He said, you see those paintings around the office? I said, yeah. He said, well, get up and walk over to the first painting. He said, tell me what you see in that painting. And I said, well, I see two Indians on horses. He said, no, where's the horizon? So I said, well, the horizon's, way above the head of the Indians. He said, fine, walk on to the next one. And stupidly I said, well, there's some cavalry on horses. I hadn't learned anything, And he said, no, where's the horizon? And I said, well, the horizon is the very, very bottom of the painting. And I stood in front of his desk. He said, when you're able to distinguish the art of the horizon at the bottom of a frame or at the top of the frame, but not going right through the center of the frame, you might make a pretty good picture maker. Now get the out of here.
I love that story. I mean, who knew at the time that one legendary film director gives a piece of earth-shattering advice to another one who would, of course, go on to be a legend as well. And I feel it's telling that within that conversation, Ford doesn't say, you know what, son, if you want to be a filmmaker or a picture maker, as you put it, then go read this book or watch this person's films. No, he asked Spielberg to point out something in an image that isn't immediately apparent to the person just looking at it, but plays such a crucial role about how the person feels. And of course, that is the horizon line. It feels like Ford was trying to make Spielberg aware of where he puts the horizon line, because everything else that you build as an image maker from this, about how the image is going to feel and how it's going to look, comes from that one decision. As I was researching this video, I came across a quote or a line in an article that said that the story should come first, and then the composition should enhance and support the story. And I feel that, certainly when it comes to horizons and certainly landscape photography, that it's the other way around. That people sort of go, oh, do you know what? If you've got a wonderful sky full of beautiful clouds or some sort of God rays or things, then put the horizon low so we can have lots of that prettiness. But on the other hand, if your foreground is all interesting and kind of cool, then move that horizon up. That's a binary way of thinking about it. So to my view, it's not an either or. It's something that we need to take into account. That idea that Ford is telling Spielberg why. Think about why. This is at the heart of what this video is about. It's like understanding the mood that placement gives the viewer. Now it's interesting. I'm going to show you a whole load of images of a low horizon. And I could tell you about, how they make me feel, about what sort of vibe they impart on me and stuff like that. But I want you to think about something while you're looking at these photographs, is that you as the viewer don't need to be told that there's a low horizon in these images. It doesn't need to be pointed out to you. There isn't a manual that comes with these things. Much as when John Ford would make his films, he didn't sit there and go, by the way, just before we watch this next scene, I want you to take a note of why I've done this, that, and next thing. As humans, we kind of react to these things without thinking about it. But of course, as image makers, as people who want to tell a story visually or get across a feeling, we do need to know about what's going on. So the low horizon, you've no good doubt you've got your own ideas about it. But for me, it feels light. It feels airy. It conveys a vastness. If I wanted to have the wide open plains of Monument Valley, then I would want to put the horizon low. Really get a sense of sweepingness. Also, there's something else comes through that, is that for me, a low viewpoint conveys that there's something else. We can move forward, we can go into the frame, we can go somewhere. That there's something else suggested, just almost literally beyond the horizon. Steven Spielberg has used this to great effect at the ends of some of his films. At the end of Indiana Jones and Last Crusade, there is a low horizon. People silhouetted. It suggests that there are further adventures to come, but we can't go there. Right? So that's a kind of, sort of a mood, but he doesn't have to suggest these things. He doesn't have to, make it obvious. Ansel Adams, legendary landscape photographer, well known. I think we've all seen his images at some point or another. He's using horizons as well. This image of Half Dome, it conveys the vastness of Yosemite Valley. Even though there are storm clouds brewing on the horizon, I don't feel oppressed. I don't feel threatened. It still feels light, airy, that it's okay, that I could happily wander around in this landscape and drift off, go and discover other places. But when we move the horizon down, something different happens. I start to feel very hemmed in. That the land now seems to dominate over the top of me. That whatever I'm looking at has a barrier to it. The eye is kind of drawn to the largest piece of scenery in a frame. And when that's the sky, when there's something else going, when that horizon is low down, it feels less oppressive for me. But when there's a line at the top of the frame by which I cannot pass, that there's a suggestion of something else there, but I feel like I'm always being pulled back into this landscape, pulled into whatever it is that we're looking at, then I feel constricted. That I can't get out of it, which is often, that's a kind of a cool thing, because we're not wandering off, not thinking about other things. I'm being forced to confront the image in front of us, but it can make it feel like things are looming over in a very different way than if you change your perspective and walked up to something so it looms over like a building in an urban landscape. Well, there's something else that happens. We had the vastness. Right? But the problem with the vastness is that it makes things feel small. Half Dome, in the picture we looked at earlier, doesn't look like a mountain. It looks like something you could stroll up in the morning and have a little picture and for your Instagram, and then go off to something else in the afternoon. But of course, it is a massive in all senses of the word. And when you get closer, when you move the horizon up, you bring in a sense of scale. That you swap out vastness, you bring in like, this is a huge thing, that you can feel it. The Grand Tetons River, that feels like a huge landscape. It doesn't feel like a vast landscape. It feels like there's nature in there, that there's a power of the river and all those sort of things. Look at the photographs of the waterfalls. We are confronted by, you can almost feel the thunder of the water because that horizon is high, because the waterfall dominates the frame. Even though there's a little bit of suggestion of sky, we are forced to be in there, feeling that water splash all over our faces. Wherever you look in photography, you will find horizons. It's not just constrained to landscape photography. It's always there. And even if the landscape, if the horizon is not immediately obvious, there is always a horizon there. Think about when Spielberg's in Ford's office and he's pointing out the obvious things in the paintings. And that's what people do when they look at your work. They will look at the mountain, they will look at the tree, they will look at all these things, and that's fine. But as a photographer, don't be the one who sits there and goes, you know, I see this wonderful mountain, I'm just going to photograph the mountain, and then I'm going to build the composition around it. Think about what that mountain feels to you. What do you want, how do you want that viewer to think about these things? Then bring in your subject. Once you have got the story, and hang everything on when you are going to put the horizon and then build your picture from there. Horizons, of course, are one aspect of compositional tools that we have at our disposal. And if you want to find other ways of affecting how viewers feel about your images, then check this video out over here. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you again soon.